We have reorganized and we have on hold. I think it is time for a tour.
Talk to me, show me all that hurts you deep. Soak my shirt in all your tears, so I can talk with you. Breathe to me, tales of things that harm.
Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. Today's video is going to be an entire library tour. My channel is almost 2 years old. And believe it or not, I've never done a bookshelf tour and I've never done a library tour. Today is the day. Now, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but fingers crossed that it's actually going to work out. Well, if it doesn't, you will never know because probably I will not upload the video. Many of you already know that I am not only a reader, I am also a book collector. But when I say book collector, I don't mean that I have special editions or vintage books. I actually don't. Maybe I have 1 or 2 special editions and 1 vintage book, and that's all. That's all I have. When I say I'm a book collector, I mean that I keep every single book I read because in my mind, I have this idea of a beautiful home library. It's already in my head. I know exactly how it's going to look like. Thousands and thousands of books and a fireplace and a garden and so much light and it's beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. Oh, but that's enough daydreaming. Back to today's video and back to my little library or reading corner, I should say, that I already have. I have about 500 books, a little bit more than 500 books. It's a big collection, and because I have so many books, I am not going to go through these books individually, but of course I will show you the ones that for one reason or another are very, very special to me. I will timestamp everything down below, and now let me give you just a very quick overview of this little reading corner. Alright guys, this is how my book collection and my little reading corner in the living room looks like. Just like I said, I have a lot of books and it is really hard for me to organize them and keep everything, nice, neat and clean, but I think that it's okay. I have a gigantic bookshelf here and we will go through every single shelf and I will show you the books. These books are organized by genre. You guys know we did the video together, we organized this shelf together. There, I have a pile of books. These are the books that I have been reading this year. I've been collecting them separately for 2 reasons. One, I have a video idea in my mind and I really want to make it into a reality, and I think I can, but it helps me a lot just to collect the books separately. And the second reason is that, as you can tell, I don't really have much space left on my bookshelf. So yeah, for now, I am collecting them separately. I also have just a little stack of books here. These are some Hungarian classics and some Hungarian vintage books that are very dear to me. So again, I am just keeping them there right next to the fireplace. I actually really like the look that these books give to the space. And also here on the mantle, you can see some, not all, but some of my all-time favorite books, and of course we will discuss them in today's video. And this here, hi, hello, this is me. We will start with the bookshelf, guys. I will show you first the non-fiction books that are on the top, and then the fiction, sci-fi classics, and then we will move on to the fantasy shelf, and then the romance, and last but not least, a little bit of the darker theme books, mysteries, thrillers, and horrors. What I am not going to show in today's video is the bottom shelf, which is basically my cookbook collection. I feel that nobody is really interested in these books, but if you are, then maybe in another video I can show them to you. When it comes to the non-fiction books, guys, I actually categorize them by topic because I read non-fiction books on a variety of topics and I want to be able to locate them when I need them. And here on this end, you can see my science-y books. When it comes to these books, there are 2 books that I can genuinely recommend, and I am so sorry, I am very, very short. I cannot reach this book to actually take them out and show them to you guys. But one of them is Lifespan by David A. Sinclair. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic fantastic book, and also The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I highly recommend these two. And also, I really adored A Taste for Poison. Next to my sciencey books, you can see a couple of self-help and self-improvement books that discusses our purpose in life, and one of them that I could really recommend is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Of course, I have to mention A Man's Search for Meaning. This was at a time an absolutely life-changing book for me. And next to those books, I have a couple of books by Caitlin Doughty, who is a mortician, and I absolutely adore her books. I store two of them here, and one of them is on my all-time favorites shelf. Then slowly we go into the memoir section, and I don't even know which one to recommend to you guys because so many of these books are absolutely fantastic, and I feel weird saying that because who am I to judge somebody else's life, you know? But I can highly recommend Britney Spears' memoir, Michelle Obama's memoir, of course, Trevor Noah's memoir, and Yeonmi Park. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic books. And then we are going into gender studies and race studies, and then here on this end, just a couple of non-fiction books that are more like in the productivity category. The ones that I really liked is Quiet by Susan Cain. I think that anybody who consider themselves an introvert, they should read this book. And also I really liked Atomic Habits by James Clear. When I picked up this book, I expected a disaster. This book is actually fantastic. I don't like to read books that are around toxic productivity, you know, the books that tell you that unless you wake up at like 5 a.m. and you accomplish 40 tasks immediately within the first hour, you are just like a worthless human being. I don't like those. This one is actually fantastic, and this I can highly recommend to you guys. Next is my fiction books. These are contemporary fiction, literary fiction, as well as some historical fiction. I really like to use my books as bookends, guys, for so many different reasons. One, I am struggling with available space, and actually stacking up my books like this, it really helps me out to put every single book on the shelf. Two, I actually really like how this looks. And three, because these books and this stack of books is so heavy, they really keep everything in order, everything in check. These books will not move and will not fall off the shelves. In this bookend stack, you can see a lot of different books, contemporary fiction, some YA. I have no idea why I have a mystery book here. This is something that I will have to remove and put it with the mystery books. And then a couple of other speculative fiction, literary fiction, and a couple of very short books. And actually this one, Assembly by Natasha Brown, it's something that I could recommend to you guys. It's only like 100 pages long, but when I read this book, it was like, wow, my mind was blown. So out of this stack, probably this is the book that I would recommend to you guys. Here, guys, you can see my little Taylor Jenkins Reid collection. I only read these 3 books from her, and honestly, I adored, I loved every single one of them. Probably my favorite was Carrie Soto is Back. I would say okay. I was afraid that this would happen. I just disturbed the order of things and then everything falls apart. Anyways, back to this book. This is probably my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid, and not the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo that everybody seems to adore. Let me remove these 2 books, guys, so I can easily show you a couple of other fiction books that I want to mention. One of my favorites is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This is one of my comfort reads, and I know that this is YA. I just simply wanted to put it here because of the height of the book. This is where it fit. Also, 2 books that I want to mention is How Beautiful We Were and also Lily and the Octopus. These 2 books made me bawl my eyes out. With this book, I picked up this one because there is a sausage dog on the cover, and I absolutely adore sausage dogs, and I thought that this book would follow the life of a sausage dog. I was wrong. I was wrong. I did not really read the synopsis. I should have. Anyways, this is a fantastic book and this was a very nice surprise to me. And after reading this book, I also picked up The Guncle by Stephen Rowley and I absolutely adored it. I want to read more from this author. Next, we are going into more like the literary fiction part of the bookshelf. Tender is the Flesh. I mean, come on, this is one of my all-time favorite books. Oh my god, it blew my mind at the time when I read it. The same goes for The Vegetarian. Oh my god, this was my first time reading Korean fiction and I was like, I am hooked. I need to read more Korean fiction. And that's how also I ended up reading Kim Ji-young, born 1982. I know that this is an insanely famous book, so probably many of you have already read it, but if you have not, please, please, please pick this book up. This book is fantastic. Both The Vegetarian and Kim Ji-young, born 1982, these are very nice feminist piece of fiction. And then other little feminist piece of fiction that I would really like to recommend to you guys is Comfort Me with Apples. Can you look at this cover and say that you don't want to read this book? Please. Insanely short, and this book absolutely blew my mind. I also have a couple of other literary fiction books that I absolutely adored in this little stack. Less, and of course I need to mention Ocean Vuong's book. But one book that was absolutely life-changing to me and easily became one of my favorite books of all times is Notes on an Execution by Daniel Kafka. I picked this book up because of the cover, because come on, you guys know exactly how I react when I see a purple book, and also like look at the pendant on the cover. This book is life-changing. Also, I really appreciated the books that is next to it, Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. This was an absolutely fantastic book and I need to read more from this author. Both of these books basically made me bawl my little eyes out. Now we are entering into the historical fiction category. You guys know that I adore historical fiction. I adore that genre. And the very first book here that I want to show you is the very, very hyped and famous Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Now, I know that many people hate this cover. The author herself said that she hates this cover, but I absolutely adore it. And with all honesty, this book was partially a cover buy to me. Of course, I wanted to read about the topic because we don't really get many books about female scientists, and it was absolutely fantastic, fantastic, fantastic book. Outside and inside, I adored it. I had to move you guys a little bit so you can see the rest of my historical fiction collection as well as the sci-fi books and the classics that I am storing in that corner. I have two historical fiction books here that are my favorites. Both of these books absolutely blew my mind. And the first one that I really want to recommend to you guys is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. She is probably, you all know that she is the very famous author of Hamnet. I have not read Hamnet yet, but I read The Marriage Portrait, and I also read, and that book is here, you guys just cannot see it, I also read The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox, and honestly, both of these books absolutely blew my mind. I cannot wait to read Hamnet. And then the other historical fiction book that I really want to show you because it is gorgeous, but also I want to show this book to you because I am highly recommending that you read this book, is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This was a cover buy for me. I am not going to deny it, but oh my god, the content and the story blew my mind. This is a book that takes place in the Netherlands. This is one of my books that I really want to display, but unfortunately I cannot because for now I don't have the space to do so, but one day I will. And this book will be on display. Just remember that when that happens. Just remember that I said it in this video. I am storing my gigantic shell here that I got from Fiji, and I used to store my keys in the hallway in this shelf, but I didn't want to destroy it. And it's so beautiful, so gorgeous, that I decided just to use it as a decoration on my bookshelf. And this is basically sitting on top of my sci-fi books. But the first two books that I want to mention, these are sci-fi short story collections published by Ted Chiang, and oh my god, this guy blows my mind every single time when I read something from him. Probably you don't know the author that I'm talking about, but you know this incredibly famous short story, The Stories of Your Life, because this short story was the inspiration for the movie Arrival, and that movie is fantastic. The short story is even better, if I may say so. And next to the Ted Chiang books, you can see two Becky Chambers books. Oh my god, Becky Chambers is quite possibly my favorite sci-fi authors of all times. Her sci-fis are very character driven, so even if you're somebody who doesn't like sci-fi because of the sciencey stuff, pick up the Becky Chambers books because you're not going to regret it. Possibly my favorite series from her is the Wayfarer series, and the books are all over the place because the very first book, I will show that to you shortly, that is on my all-time favorites shelf. But these two, I am keeping it here. Oh my god, Becky Chambers. Remember, read Becky Chambers. Next is The Humans by Matt Haig. This is also a sci-fi book that I really like, and I could recommend if you are a beginner when it comes to sci-fi. And also the last book here that I want to mention is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is the only sci-fi book that I read by Andy Weir, and I'm not going to pull it out because if I do that, all the books are going to just fall over and everything is going to like get ruined. So we're not going to do that. Next, guys, I really want to give a shout out to my mom, because basically all of the decorations that you see on my bookshelf are made by my mom. All right, except this one, this little Buddha, whatever this is hers. She just accidentally left it in my apartment and I refused to give it back to her, so now it is sitting on my bookshelf. But all the crochet things, like for example this little plant, this is something that was crocheted by my mom. And also all of my fall decorations, like for example, look at this cutesy little pumpkin, this is also something that was made by my mom, and I love to display them on the bookshelf. I'm not really into clutter with all honesty. I am only displaying items from her because these items have sentimental value to me, but yeah, I cannot abide clutter, so you will probably never see useless decorations on my bookshelf that mean absolutely nothing to me. This little thing here, this little thing is a koala, and she reminds me of my home in Sydney, and she's like perfect here, sitting here in this little jungle, looking after the books, protecting the books. I will try to bring you guys a little bit closer and show you more of my sci-fi collection. Now, when it comes to this stack of books, these are the sci-fi books that I didn't really like, and I don't really see myself reaching for these books often, except the two Becky Chambers book that is up there. Again, I just freaking adore her. And these are the sci-fi books, and again, I had to play with the space a little bit, so I just decided to stack them and basically push them behind like the first row of books, and I am going to move them a little bit so I can show you the stack of classics that I have here. Now look, when it comes to my reading, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't read that many classics, and this is something that I definitely want to change, because some of them I absolutely adore. I mean, come on, The Hobbit, I freaking adore that book. Animal Farm, yes. Siddhartha, I really liked it. Passing, Little Prince, The Prophet, Othello, this is a Jane Austen book, this is Persuasion, adore it. And then let me just move these poetries from here for now. There are two books here, two classics that I would actually recommend to anybody, anytime. And the very first one is certainly Macbeth. I talked about this book so many times on my channel. You guys know how I feel about Macbeth. I try to reread it as many times as I can. I freaking adore the witches. This play to me, it's all about the witches. And then the other book that surprisingly I freaking adored is Carmilla, and apparently this is the book that inspired Dracula. So if you like Dracula, I personally don't like Dracula, but if you do, then maybe it's a good idea for you to pick up Carmilla. All right, guys, oh, this is making me so excited because we finally reached the fantasy shelf, and you guys know that fantasy has a very, very special place in my heart, and we are going to start with the romantasy end of the shelf. Now, this stack of books are the books that unfortunately I did not really like. I mean, Atlas 6 was a no to me. The Lexi Ryan books, yeah, that was a no to me. The 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, that was a no to me. I know that there are so many people out there who are really hyping these books. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me. I do have a couple of books here on top of the stack that I actually really liked. Of course, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I was also fine with Piranesi, Siren Queen, and The 10,000 Stitches. I like them, they were just not really life-changing book for me, that's all. And now, the hardcore romantasy books. I certainly read Emily Wilde's of Encyclopedia of Fairies, and I ordered the UK cover because the US cover is atrocious. I needed the UK one. Both the first and the second book covers are so insanely gorgeous. I will show you the second book just in a second. That's in another pile. Once I am done with 2024, I will reorganize everything and I will put the books next to each other, of course. Right next to Emily Wilde, I have a couple of Carissa Broadbent books. I cannot say that I am a big fan of the Crown of Nyaxia series, but certainly I read them. I really like the novella, actually. Probably my favorite is The 6 Scorched Roses. I mean, give me Lilith and Whale's story and I am yours. And then I have Fourth Wing and Iron Flame here. It was fine. It was fine. I don't fully get the hype, but it was fine. I also certainly read the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I read the third book, but again, it's in a 2024 pile and not here. Once I reorganize the shelves, I will put the books next to each other. And then last but not least, before I move the camera, I want to show you the Throne of Glass series. And these are, I should say, the paperbacks that I really wanted because I know that there are so many different editions out there, but this is the one I wanted, and I got this from Barnes & Noble. Fantastic quality and really, really nice cover design. I mean, I will just show you one. I will show you Kingdom of Ash because this is my favorite book probably in the series. No, I lied. That's such my favorite is probably Empire of Storms or Tower of Dawn. I know that it's an unpopular opinion, but that's just how it is. But look at that cover design. Whoever the designer was, special shout out to her or him. Now, we cannot have a romantasy shelf without the mother of romantasy, ACOTAR. Here I only have 4 books. The very first one, you know, I have the special edition for that one. Again, that's on my favorites shelf. And then also Court of Silver Flames, that's on my favorites shelf. I don't have a problem separating my books in a series, but I know that it's actually a pet peeve for other people. I don't know what to say. I really don't mind separating them. Now, next to ACOTAR, I have a couple of books from my favorite fantasy authors. I freaking adore Margaret Rogerson, and Sorcery of Thorns is one of the best freaking fantasy romance books that I ever read in my life. I adored An Enchantment of Ravens. And T. Kingfisher, I need to give shout out to T. Kingfisher, and I need to show you Thornhedge, guys, because the design of this book, it blows my mind. And it was actually the author who did the design for this book. Insane. Let me just show you the toad. I mean, come on, what a beautiful book, and I really enjoyed the story itself. I also want to give a shout out to Nettle and Bone. That was the very first T. Kingfisher that I ever read in my life, and I freaking adored it. And then I have a couple of other books from Shannon Maguire. I have not finished this series. I think this is the Wayward Children series. I've not finished this. Now, moving on to a couple of retellings. Just again, let me remove the decoration before I break it. This little DIY Foxy, this is actually something that I made. I mean, sorry, excuse me, let me correct that. I painted. I did not make this. All right, the very first book, and I want to show you this cover, is Kaikei. I know that this book is very hyped, so you guys have probably heard about it, and I think that the hype is very well deserved. I also want to show you the cover of Stone Blind. Ultimately, this book unfortunately ended up being a disappointment to me, but the cover design is so gorgeous. And we have a couple of other Greek myth retellings. I used to be into Greek myth retellings big time. Probably my favorite, and I know that this is something that's going to surprise many of you, but probably my favorite retellings are the Stephen Fry ones, and I really want to recommend Mythos to you guys specifically. It is so funny and the stories are so good. He narrates the audiobook. If you want to try it, I highly, highly recommend. And these books here, the Jennifer L. Armentrout romantasy books from Blood and Ash, and then the prequel to From Blood and Ash, I have no idea what is the official name for that series. Those books are so incredibly heavy. Those books are bricks. So I decided to use them again as a bookend. And here is my romance collection, guys. I have mostly contemporary romance here, but also I have a couple of romances that's got some fantastical elements and also sci-fi, and just a couple of historical romance that is absolutely my favorite, probably within the romance genre. When it comes to the contemporary romance genre, you guys know how incredibly tough I am on this genre. Unreasonably tough I am on this genre, I should say. And when it comes to this stack of books, these are the ones that were okay, I guess. I just don't really see myself reaching again for these books, so I just stack them up here and they are perfect bookends. Some of my favorite authors and some of my favorite books are here, however, and I want to show you those books, guys. I do want to give a shout out to Hello Stranger. This is the only Catherine Center book that I read, and I actually quite liked it. I mean, it was okay, you know, probably I would try a couple of other books from the author, but that's all. But these authors and these books I actually really adored. Of course, I have my Emily Henry collection here. Funny story is not yet here because again, it's in my 2024 pile, but I have all the other Emily Henry books here. Probably from this stack, my favorite is The People We Meet on Vacation. And then I have a couple of Talia Hibbert books here. And specifically, I really like the trilogy that follows the Brown sisters. And I think that my favorite book is Get a Life, Chloe Brown from her. I also have a couple of books from Rachel Lynn Solomon. And that one is not Rachel Lynn Solomon. These three. And probably my favorite, guys, out of these three that I read is Weather Girl. I really, really like this one. Now, the other two books right next to the Rachel Lynn Solomon collection is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. And this is the only book that I read by Ashley Poston so far, and I absolutely adored it. I want to try all her other books, like no questions asked. And I feel the same way about Nisha Sharma, because Dating Dr. Dale, wow, what a fantastic book this was. Now, this is the section that's taking us into the sci-fi romance, to be nice, because these are technically alien smut. You know, the very famous Ruby Dixon series, like Barbarian whatever, Barbarian this, Barbarian that. I am reading the series. I have 3 books here that I already read. And also I have a couple of historical romances here. I think that the very first historical romances that I read were actually the Evie Dunmore books, and I really, really liked Portrait of a Scotsman. Come on, guys, it's a purple cover and with a Scot. I mean, that is all. That is the recipe that you need if you want to win me over. So of course I adored that book. And a series that I started but unfortunately have not finished is the Veronica Speedwell series, but A Curious Beginning was a really, really nice book. And I also want to give a shout out to this book. Can I remove it? Oh, yes. A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting. I I don't think that this book gets enough hype. If you like historical romances, I think you should try this one. I had a really good time reading this book. Right next to my romance collection, I actually have all the mysteries and thrillers and horrors. I really like to give a shout out to this book, Leave the World Behind. It's one of those rare situations when I adore the book and I also really adore the movie. Also, guys, let me just show you this book, The Things We Do to Our Friends. I remember filming a reading vlog for this book, and it was like about a year ago. And even after a year reading this book, I'm still like, what? I'm sorry, but what? And I think that's a good book. And even after a year, I am thinking about this book. I think that is a good book. I have a couple of Riley Sagers here. You guys know that he is not exactly my favorite author, but come on, the cover for The Only One Left. It is one of my favorite covers of all times, okay? That's all. I can praise the cover design, but kinda that's all. I have a couple of Grady Hendrixes here and a couple of like shorter, darker stories. I also want to give a shout out to Natural Beauty. This was one of my favorite books of 2023. Absolutely blew my mind. I cannot believe that the author is actually a musician. Now, you guys see that I have a couple of books here. I am so scared of these books. I am so afraid of these books that I decided to turn the books and the spine has to face the wall so I cannot see the books. And of course, I am going to show you these books. The very first one, and this is probably the very first really scary book that I read in my life, and I was so afraid after reading this book that I put it on the balcony because I didn't want the book in the house. And that is The Patient by Jasper Dewitt. Oh my god, freaked me out. Even just like holding this book, it totally freaks me out. I was also really scared reading episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. Come on, this book had some really scary moments. Ultimately, it didn't work for me, but it had some scary moments. And can we just like look at the cover for a second? Like that? Give me the chills. Also, I cannot believe that I was scared of this book, Suburban Hell by Maureen Kilmer, because Maureen Kilmer, she doesn't write scary books yet. Oh my god. This book freaked shit out of me, okay? Super scared. And last but not least, I do need to mention Home Before Dark. I think this was the very first Riley Sager that I read, and oh my god, I was really scared of this book. And with all honesty, like even Lock Every Door, it had a couple of freaky moments that really scared me. And this bookend here, guys, this is a mix of everything. I cannot even, like, this is thriller, this is suspense. I also have a couple of Dan Brown books there, a couple of books that are YA and horror and just like in general mystery. It's like a mix of everything. Now, when it comes to my physical TBR, the books that I want to show you guys are the ones that are on the top tier or the top shelf. Not only because these are the books that I really want to read this year, I am definitely prioritizing them, but also because this is the shelf that's got most of my, well, special editions or more special books. Now look, when it comes to books and when it comes to reading, whether you have a physical book, an audio book, an ebook, or whether you got a book with or without sprayed edges, it doesn't really matter. The content is the same and the book is still valuable. But recently, cannot deny, I'm not going to deny, I am really into just simply beautiful books. And I think it's because I am trying to build a home library and I want at least a couple of special editions, especially books that I truly adore. So that is what's happening to me this year. Now, enough talking. Let me just show you a couple of books here. Let me remove the decorations again. Beautiful crocheted pumpkin made by my mom. This little thing was made by me. I think you can clearly tell. And also, I just want to show you this gigantic oak leaf. This is the biggest leaf that I ever seen in my life. Like, just as a comparison, like, look at it. Like, it's as big as a book. So I wanted to try this out and I want to use it as a bookmark. Well, as long as I can. But anyways, enough of the decoration, the books. And since I am already holding Wuthering Heights, let me just show you Wuthering Heights and this beautiful ash purple special edition that I got from Barnes and Nobles. I am reading this book. Guys, I cannot even tell you how much I adore this book. I adore this book. Outside and inside. Absolutely fantastic. Well, now a couple of other special editions that I got. One of them is Blood over Brighthaven, and I hope you guys can see the book. I know, I'm sorry, there is a little bit of reflection going on there, but this book, it's not enough that the cover is really, really nice. Look at the red sprayed edges, and as a whole, this book just simply works. It is so beautiful. I mean, in general, I think that when it comes to fantasy books, they have some really, really nice designs. I cannot wait to get to reading this book. And then another special edition, a Barnes and Noble special edition that I got is Voyage of the Damned, which is, again, a new release fantasy. And can we just like look at those sprayed edges? I think that maybe with this they were trying to imitate the ocean. I'm actually not sure because this story is a murder mystery that takes place on a ship. But look at that. And look at the ombre sprayed edges. Oh my god. And again, just look at the inside of the book. I mean, oh, come on. Come on. I am loving this. And then what are some other special editions that I picked up? Persuasion by Jane Austen. I cannot wait to start reading this book. I mean, I will have to find a way to annotate these special editions because, you know, I really don't want to ruin the books, though they are not going anywhere. They are staying forever in my collection. I don't know what's this thing with me, but when a book got gold foiling or gold sprayed edges, I am here for it. And that is why I am in love with this Anne of Green Gables copy. I mean, oh, come on. I adore this story and I know that I will love this book. I never read this book, especially not in English, and I cannot wait to get to it. I mean, oh my god, so gorgeous. Look at that. Oh my god. All right. Do I have any other special Barnes and Noble edition that I got? No, I don't think so, but I do have this book. And again, this is not a special edition, but I want to show you. This is a new release and you guys need to see this cover. I have very high expectations when it comes to this book. Everybody says that it's freaking amazing. So, no special edition, but still, the cover is still like wowza. Also, let me just show you guys quickly this book, because this is also a special edition that I got for the Nutcracker. And again, gold sprayed edges. Oh, so beautiful. It is on my December TBR. I just cannot get enough of these books. I will have to go back to Barnes and Noble and get some more special editions. Here we go, guys. The most exciting part of the video, my favorite shelf. This mantelpiece, it's got like about 30 of my all-time favorites. I cannot fit every single one of my favorites on this shelf, so you know, I had to be really selective. Now this is something that's going to change early next year. I will definitely reorganize it, but for now, let me just show you a couple of my favorites, because again, these books are all my favorites, so I am just going to show you the extra special ones. And that means that we have to start with The Missing Trees of Elif Shafak. I featured this book in so many different videos. An immigration story told by a fig tree? I mean, come on. One of the most beautiful fiction, historical fiction that I ever read in my life. Also, I need to give a special shout out to Ruth Azeki's A Tale for the Time Being. Wow. Oopsie. Of course, I am destroying my decoration because why not? Also, Anxious People by Frederick Backman. If you never read this book, please give it a try. Oh my god, I just love this book so much. It made me bawl my eyes out. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Of course, highly recommend. But again, I can recommend every single one of the books here. Daisy Jones and the Six, The Hating Game. I want to give a special shout out to The Hating Game because this was the very first contemporary romance that I ever read in my life. I have a poetry collection here, classics, The Razor's Edge, of course, but the book that I want to show you guys is actually North and South again because this book got a special meaning to me. This was the very first English classics that I read. And oh my god, I adore this story. Some people say it's a romance. I actually don't think it's a romance. At least that's not the part of the book that I actually adored. Of course, I love the romantic subplot, but it was not specifically about that. Then we go into the non-fictions. The Power of Meaning is one of the non-fiction books that changed my life, and every now and then I still reread it. I highly recommend that you read this book. Also, oh my god, I am breaking all my decorations. Anyways, back to the books. Next, When Smoke Gets Into Your Eyes. This is the memoir of Caitlin Doughty, who is a mortician. She's got a business. You can also find her on YouTube. I adore her books. She completely changed the way I think of the funeral industry. Then we have another nonfiction, Untamed. Then we have a couple of Grady Hendrix books because I freaking adore Grady Hendrix. I mean, his books, I don't know Grady Hendrix himself, but these two books from him, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. It is so hard for me to say this title, but I freaking adore this book. And actually the cover, I mean, I'm just gonna pull it out and show you guys. I mean, come on. The Georgia Peaches, come on. And also My Best Friend's Exorcism. And again, even like for this book, the cover is just fantastic. I really like it. He is probably one of my authors. And then before I move the camera, let me just show you the very first Tessa Dare book that I ever read in my life. Any Duchess will do. This is the book that got me hooked on historical romance. I read this book and I have not looked back since. So this will always be on my favorites shelf, no matter what. Okay, I shifted you guys a little bit. Now let's continue with a couple of other really important books in my life, but these are mostly like in the sci-fi and fantasy category. The very first one that I want to show you is To Be Taught, If Fortunate. I mean, can you look at this cover and say that you don't want to read this book? What? This is Becky Chambers, and Becky Chambers rules when it comes to sci-fi books. I really adore this book from her. This is a standalone, but probably still my favorite is her Wayfarer series, and this is the very first book, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Oh my god, she was the one, Becky Chambers, who introduced me to character-driven sci-fi, and again, I have not looked back since. Then of course I have to give a shout out to The Song of Achilles and Circe, because I think that Madeline Miller is probably the author, the writer of our times. Now, if you've been around for a while on my channel, then you know exactly how I feel about A Court of Thorns and Roses, and you know exactly how I feel about the very first book that is going to be my all-time favorite in the series. Well, until Elaine's and Lucian's story comes out. Anyways, this is the book, the special edition, that is so special to me, because this is the very first special edition or collector's edition that I ever bought myself in my life. And let me just show you this gorgeous book. Oh, it is really hard to take it out from the case, but I mean, come on, oh my god, gold. And that's Feyre there, and that's the wolf, and the word, like, I'm speechless. This is such a beautiful book. I fell in love with it when I saw it. I'm just like, look at that. I just adore everything about this book. Everything will always have a very special place in my heart. But the other book that I really like in the Alcatraz series is A Court of Silver Flames. Sometimes I cannot decide which one I love more. Okay, then of course I have to give a special shout out to The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue. I think that this is a freaking masterpiece. Divine Rivals, like what Rebecca Ross pulled there. I'm sorry, but like, oh my god, Daughter of No Worlds. Oh my god, guys, if you like romantasy and you have not read the War of Lost Heart series by Carissa Broadbent, it's something that you need to read. Everything is just perfect in this book. The characters, the world, the magic, perfect. I bawled my eyes out. I think that easily this is the best fantasy romance romantasy book and book series that I ever read in my life. I also need to give a special shout out to Babel by Rebecca Kwong. Freaking masterpiece. And last but not least, let me just remove this book, Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher, which I believe, these are my workout cards here. Sword Heart, this was the very first fantasy romance book that I ever read in my life. And I freaking adore it. This is a fantastic book. If you guys have not picked this up from T. Kingfisher, then please do so. You will not regret it, I promise you. Well guys, I moved you one more time because I have a couple of special things here that I really want to show you. Let me remove this little plant Monstera, Swiss cheese Monstera. I am growing it. I am a plant mom and I really like this plant. I don't want to, you know, break it. Let me show you my bookmark collection. It's very funny that I have a bookmark collection because I actually don't use bookmarks, but these are all very special to me. This is the one that I bought in Australia for myself, and of course it's got a special meaning to me. And these are some bookmarks that actually my mom made for me, so of course they are super special. I mean, can we just look at this one? I mean, wow, this is probably my favorite. No, this is my favorite. I don't know which one is my favorite, or maybe this one. Maybe this one. This was the very first one that she made for me, and those are like poppy flowers. I think you can tell that those are poppy flowers. And right behind the bookmarks, I store probably my favorite book of all times, The Wanderer by Peter van den Ende. This book, guys, I cannot even tell you how much this book means to me, and I easily reread this book 20 times a year. I'm not going to lie about it. I don't even log it in Goodreads anymore. That's how much I love this book. This is a picture book, or some of you may know it as a silent book, and it's just one of the most beautiful stories that I ever picked up, that I ever read in my life. This is something that's very special to me, and I want to display it so it stays like that. And in this little corner, guys, you see the fantasy book series that I just fell in love with last year, the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. And these books are special to me because these are the UK covers, and I ordered these covers and the hardbacks from the UK, and I paid so much money. I mean, all right, not so much money, but I definitely paid more than I would have paid for the US edition, because this is the copy and this is the cover that I wanted. When it comes to cover design, I think that still this is the book that rules. This is the book that I love the most out of all the 500 books that I have. Even when it comes to the recently picked up Barnes & Noble editions, special editions, I think that this is the one that is just absolutely gorgeous. And also, of course, I picked up and read the other books in the series, and I really liked The Ballad of Never After. I didn't really like A Curse for True Love, but this cover, oh my god. So I had to have it. And although these two books are not as special to me as the very first one, I still like to display them because they are just gorgeous. And And last but not least, guys, these insanely gigantic piles of books that I read in 2024. Now, here on this side, you can see all the different historical romances that I read. This year was the year when I decided to devour almost all of the Tessa Dare books and almost all of the Lisa Kleypas book that I can put my hands on. Over there, oh my god, you can see a mix of books, fiction and non-fiction alike, that I finished, and Jesus Christ, some of these were the best books that I ever read in my life, and some of these were absolute tragedy. Some of the best books that I read this year was Book 2 and Book 3 in Carissa Broadbent's War of Lost Hearts series. Oh my god, it's again the best romantic series that I ever read in my life. A Dreadful Splendor was a very pleasant surprise. Also, out of all the Jane Austens that I read this year, Pride and Prejudice remains my favorite. And I know that this is something that makes me into a very basic reader, but Pride and Prejudice forever. And from the stack of books that I have here, I have to give a special mention to Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin, which is easily the most exquisite fantasy world that anybody has ever built. I will stand by my opinion probably till the end of times. Also, Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is so far my favorite Emily Henry. I also need to give a special shout out to The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I think this was the very first book that I read this year, and what Holly Black pulled there, even after reading, I don't know, like 100 fantasy romance books, she was able to surprise me, and I was gagged. I also want to give a special shout out to Brandon Sanderson, guys, because this year, 2024, was the first year that I read Mistborn as well as Warbreaker from him. I think that Warbreaker is somewhere there. I accidentally mixed it with my Tessa Dare books because Warbreaker is also like kind of in a mass market paperback style. Anyways, both of these books are freaking amazing. And finally, I started my Brandon Sanderson journey. And this is it, guys. These are all the books that I own in my home library. Yum, 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 yum. This is it, guys. This is it. We are done with today's video, and we are done with the tour. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Now do your thing, hit share, like, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. I have a lot of fun bookish videos and projects coming up. Oh, guys, I am doing Bookmas this year. It's making me stressed out a little bit because this is going to be easily the biggest project that I'd ever run on this channel. So fingers crossed that it's going to work out. I am going to leave a couple of other videos on the screen, probably here and here, for you to check out while you are waiting for my next upload that is coming very soon.